Hello and welcome. This is going to be our lecture video for February 18th through 19th. We're going to be doing this step-by-step binder lesson on how to write the equation of a line that connects 2 points. All right, let's go ahead and get started with step 1. Step 1 is to label the points x1, y1, and x2, y2, and use the formula y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 to find the slope between the points. All right, label the points x1, y1 and x2, y2 and use the formula y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 to find the slope between the points. This will give us m. All right, in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b, we need an m. We also need a b. Now when we had like a picture of a graph, b was really easy to find because you could just look and see where the line crossed the y-axis. But when we only have 2 points, we're going to have to solve for that value algebraically. So, step 2 is, now that you have m, plug it into y equals mx plus b. So, if we solve that m is equal to 2, this will be now y equals 2x plus b. All right, step 3. We want to pick the easier point, and by easier I mean perhaps smaller numbers or fewer negatives. So pick the easier point to use as an x and y value in the equation. I sometimes call this borrowing. We're going to borrow a value for x and y. All right, when we do this, we should now be able to, in step 4, solve for b in the equation. Because if we know m and we borrow an x and a y, b will be the only remaining variable and we can solve for it. So solve for b in the equation. All right, step 5. Step 5, now that you have b, plug it into y equals mx plus b. All right, we were only borrowing the x and the y, so those will go back to being variables. Let's make a note of that. X and y will now be variables again. All right, and there's a really great way to double check that you've done this all right. And so we'll double check in step 6. You double check by plugging in the point that you didn't use in step 3. All right, so we use one of our 2 points to solve for b, the other one to then double check. All right, let's go through these 6 steps with the problems that we have here. See how easy this is. So at the very beginning, I label this x1, y1, x2, y2, and then I use the formula y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 to get my slope. x2 negative 5 minus x1 negative 4. We have some double negatives here, so we'll swap those for positives. Negative 5 plus 2, negative 5 plus 4, which equals negative 3 over negative 1, which just equals positive 3. So that is my m value. We can box it, but it's not our final answer. We've only found the slope. Now I'm going to write y equals mx plus b, but with a 3. So y equals 3x plus b. I'll show that that's where that 3 is coming from. All right, now I'm going to borrow one of these points. I think maybe this first one's a little bit easier because it's slightly smaller numbers. I'm going to plug in a negative 2 for the y value and negative 4 for the x value. So negative 2 equals 3 times negative 4 plus b. B is still a variable. We're borrowing a negative 4 as an x and a negative 2 as a y value so that we can solve for b. All right, let's solve for b. So 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. Negative 2 equals negative 12 plus b. We'll add 12 to both sides and get 10 equals b. And put a box around that as well. All right, so we were only borrowing those values for x and y, so now we're going to give them back and rewrite our equation with just the m and the b value that we found. Y equals 3x plus 10. All right, now we're going to use our second equation to double check. I'm going to plug in negative 5 for x. 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. Negative 15 plus 10 is negative 5. So when I plug in a negative 5 for the other y, we get negative 5 equals negative 5. This equation checks out. All right, let's try this with number 2. I'm going to label my points. Plug them into the formula, which I don't have to rewrite every single time. Just the first time, really. All right, replace my minus and negative with a plus. I get negative 5 plus 3 over 3, which equals negative 2 over 3. So that's my m value. Now I'm going to borrow one of these to plug into y equals mx plus b. So y equals mx plus b. When I plug in 2/3 for m, and then I'll pick that first point. A 1 will go in for x, and a negative 3 will go in for a y, and we'll get a new equation. Negative 3 equals negative 2/3 times 1 plus b. All right, anything times 1 is just itself, so this is negative 3 equals negative 2/3 plus b. We will add 2/3 to both sides. Here, being good with fractions is really important to recognize that negative 3 could be re-expressed as negative 9 over 3. Negative 9 plus 2 becomes a negative 7, so this is negative 7 over 3 equals b. Now that I have a b and an m value, I can plug them into y equals mx plus b and get y equals negative 2/3 x minus 7/3. All right, next one. I'll just do the next 2 and then call it good. Let's practice. So I've got to find the slope first. And there we go, using the slope formula, we get that the slope is equal to 3. Now with that slope, we can borrow one of these points. I'll borrow this first one, negative 2 comma 2, to plug it all into y equals mx plus b. So 3 is going to go in, and I'm going to borrow a negative 2 comma 2. So positive 2 equals 3 times negative 2 plus b. 2 equals negative 6 plus b. Add 6 to both sides, and we get 8 equals b. And now we'll put that together into y equals mx plus b to get y equals 3x plus 8. All right, one more. All right, find the slope. Minus a negative becomes a plus. We can simplify our fraction by dividing the top and the bottom by negative 3. Together this is equal to negative 1 over 2. Or divide by positive 3, and then just remember to move the negative up to the top. So that's your m value. Now let's solve for our b value. I'll borrow that first point. So y equals mx plus b becomes negative 1 equals 1/2 times 5 plus b. Now let's solve. Negative 1 equals, when I multiply a number to a fraction, I multiply to the top of that fraction, so negative 5 over 2 plus b. Add 5 halves. Add 5 halves. Recognize that negative 1 is just negative 2 over 2, so negative 2 over 2 plus 5 over 2 becomes 3 over 2. All right, now that we have an m and a b value, we'll put it all together into y equals mx plus b and get y equals negative 1/2 x plus 3 over 2. All right, that's the last one on this front side. And we'll call that good here. I'll embed a few more questions for you to finish up. But other than that, have a good rest of your day.